One dark, spooky night, 13 of Nintendo's most iconic characters find themselves at a secluded place that none of them should have entered. Each of them receives the same letter, an invitation to Starfall Manor, promising answers, treasure, and a challenge unlike any other. But the manor is no ordinary mansion. Its halls are shaped by a power whispered of only as the entity. And once the doors close, its trials always demand sacrifice. So today we find out which Nintendo character will survive a horror game. The skeptical Luigi questioned the invitations. He remembered what happened the last time he'd accepted an invitation to a strange mansion after all. But with Mario by his side this time, he figured whatever danger lurked within couldn't be strong enough to take both of them down. Princess Peach came in next, with Captain Toad bravely, albeit shakily, standing by her side, ready to explore the treasure-filled mansion for his kingdom. These four friends, however, are surprised to see Link and Zelda arrive. Hailing from the distant kingdom of Hyrule, these two were drawn to the manor by whispers of ancient powers that lay within the manor's treasures. Spacefaring heroes Fox and Samus Aran followed. Less overtly friendly than the previous heroes, but nonetheless offering respectful nods to them. Inside, however, they were both suspicious of this spontaneous invitation drawing so many well-known figures to one place. Donkey Kong, on the other hand, wasn't suspicious at all. He just wanted to see if the treasures in this manor included delicious Banandium gems. Maybe he could even find some gifts for his family and friends back home. Kirby's done a bit of treasure hunting before, but he's also more interested in snacks and making sure whatever's in there doesn't threaten Planet Popstar. Of course, King Dedede knows his destined rival won't get far without his protection, so he insisted on coming along for some treasure hunting of his own. No shortage of valiant heroes have entered the fray, alleviating some of the more skeptical heroes' concerns. That is, until Bowser enters. As they all wondered why Bowser was invited here, the Koopa King just laughed confidently, not letting any of them know he was wondering the same thing about them. And lastly, there's Wario, who doesn't really care about who was or wasn't invited. As long as there's plenty of shiny, valuable treasures for him, he's perfectly content. He barely even noticed a shadow slipping by him, shutting the door to the manor behind him. And with a loud locking sound, there's no going back for our unlucky 13.
13 chosen shall turn to less. The manor welcomes its first test. Claim yourselves the proper key, lest your souls be drawn to me.
The group finds themselves trapped in an admittedly decadent foyer, locked in and surrounded by many interesting rooms. If they want to survive, they'll need to find the key that opens one door, one that has a unique looking lock, but it may be worthwhile to explore other possibilities too. This isn't exactly what anyone expected from today. Luigi and Dedede are freaking out, reasonably, I might add. But they have friends to help them keep a level head. Kirby, Mario, and Princess Peach help them to keep calm and focus on the task at hand. If they all work together, they can find a key and get themselves to safety. Captain Toad, the group's treasure tracker, is more than happy to help. At least he would be, if Wario hadn't shoulder-checked past him and began searching every nook and cranny in the surprisingly large foyer. Samus and Fox's alliance also came in handy here, with Fox agreeing to keep watch while Samus searched for the key. It's not like this is much different than her having to shoot random walls and flooring to move on in her own series after all. And even little Kirby can't help but notice something odd about a couple of statues that stand beside each door. While 4 are made of silver, one of which Wario made off with, one seems to be made out of copper-esque material. Link and Zelda make a note of this too, and they notice that the doors are also different. That one that has an elaborate lock probably belongs with the copper statue, and sure enough, once they make the switch, the door pops right open. Mario, Luigi, Zelda, Link, Peach, Captain Toad, and Kirby rush through the door. Zelda secretly hands Link a golden dagger she found mounted on a wall, which she narrowly hid from Wario, trusting him to use it on any evil entity that might arise. Samus goes to get Fox's attention, who's preoccupied with an interesting note he found underneath a pile of bottles. It says, "My dear son, I still remember your face lighting up when you played your little games in that basement. It brings me joy to remember those simpler days. Yet, as my life ebbs away, I hope you know that despite all you've done, The end of the letter has been scratched out messily, yet thoroughly, the paper torn by its scribbles. But neither space traveler dwells on it for long. They, alongside Wario, move on to the next room. The three remaining heavyweights are the last to leave. King DDD taps Bowser's shoulder to get his and DK's attention, letting the pair know that the others managed to open the proper door. Bowser and DK had spent their time trying to muscle their way through the more inconspicuous doors, and while DDD's signal was helpful, Bowser didn't see a reason for all their effort to go to waste. He told DK he spotted some bananas behind the door they'd managed to bust through, a blatant lie, but one that would make DK the perfect scapegoat to see if there was any treasure worth going for before they went on to the next area. And unfortunately for Donkey Kong, there was no such treats behind that door. Only a vengeful spirit the others would come to meet soon enough. Donkey Kong ran into the pitch black room. Consumed by shadows, it was unclear what was in there, and all that was heard was a quick scream from DK, then silence, followed by a demonic shriek from the darkness. With that, Bowser made a swift exit, raising the group's suspicions even more.
The siren waits, the fog will rise, shadows bloom before your eyes. They seem to whisper in your ear. Can you endure your greatest fear?
The unlocked door led to an open courtyard. At least, it certainly seems open, with all the fog surrounding it. But this fog's effects are unique, to say the least. As the group tries to get their bearings, they hear a loud siren, and the fog begins to take familiar, shadowy forms. The first to notice this is Samus, who sees a foggy, dragon-esque figure. It can't be. Ridley? How? I killed you like 4 times, she said to herself. The monstrous space pirate draws near, as does a menacing, monochromatic head that's all too familiar to Fox. Since their gear doesn't put a dent in their opponents, they come to the realization that these enemies aren't exactly real, per se. That whatever this entity is, it's playing a trick on them, with each of their deepest fears. So fleeing may be the best option for survival. Of course, you don't need to tell Luigi that. The moment he saw a hallucination of a creepy King Boo, he darted without a second thought. As soon as Mario realized the monster's true nature, he escorted Peach and Captain Toad across the courtyard, hoping to shield them from whatever monsters the fog conjured up. Kirby doesn't really fear much of anything, which left the fog confused as to what to make for him. It decided on a fake cardboard plate of strawberry shortcake, but this just ticked Kirby off rather than scaring him. For King Dedede, a clone of Queen Sectonia sufficed, which sent the king running for cover with Kirby in tow. Just as Kirby was there to comfort his big buddy, Link was determined to protect Zelda from the most terrifying iteration of Ganondorf they'd seen so far. By turning the foggy foes' attention towards each other, they managed to distract them long enough to run to safety. And that only left Bowser and Wario. Bowser was admittedly caught off guard by what looked to be his son being dragged into the mist, but a few flickers in, his appearance revealed that his mind was playing tricks on him, and when Wario saw a clone of himself, destitute and begging for scraps, he just pointed and laughed and moved on. That is, until he realized that scraggly-looking clone had stolen his hard-stolen treasure. He's all for robbery, but when it affects him personally, that's another story. Wario was going for every piece of treasure he could get, so it was a real letdown when his shadowy doppelganger devoured him and the treasure in one gulp. Still, by the time the group gets to the end of the courtyard, it seems like everyone is safe. You know, except for Wario. So it seems like this round went pretty well, all things considered. But just then, while Mario's guard was down, Peach was dragged away into the mist, too quickly for any of her friends to react. It turns out that Mario's greatest fear is one shared by the Mushroom Kingdom, and even Bowser, failing to protect their beloved Princess Peach. This fear gave the fog enough influence to take her as its next victim. But the monsters are still coming, so there's no time for grief. The remaining 10 open a door to enter the other side of the mansion. Luigi pulls his brother in, who's still shell-shocked over what just transpired. The remaining 10 find themselves inside an old hunting lodge, but the monsters are right behind them.
Thunder roars as windows break. Rifles crack and windows shake. Fear endures, its claws reach through. No substitutions, it wants you.
It's even more clear to everybody that they need to work together now. The monsters are banging on the door and ripping apart the windows, but they're no longer abstract shapes and fears. These are physical creatures with flesh and blood. These are zombies. Fortunately, the hunting lodge has weapons, shotguns, rifles, and revolvers. Some of our heroes will need to use these weapons to protect the others from the monsters. Others will need to board up the windows to keep those monsters out. And a couple will need to figure out how to unlock a large door, which offers their only route to escape the lodge and move forward into the mansion. Mario is naturally in grief, having just lost Princess Peach, and it goes without saying that Luigi is terrified. But Captain Toad, of all people, slaps each of them and tells them to pull themselves together. Peach would have wanted them to watch out for each other and all their new friends. And maybe Bowser. And with that, Mario and Captain Toad took 2 of the shotguns. And the Red Plumber cocks his, ready for his revenge arc. Luigi, a bit more squeamish, decided to help King Dedede and Bowser barricade the doors and windows to protect them from monsters. Dedede is impressed by Luigi's courage and Bowser's change of heart, though the king still can't help but feel a bit suspicious after Donkey Kong's unfortunate loss in the first phase. Mario unloads shotgun shells into the zombies like a one-man army, blasting buckshot into every undead creature dumb enough to fall through one of those windows. Samus has her power suit, so she's already equipped for battle, and Kirby could just eat one of the old hunting rifles to gain the Ranger copy ability, a weapon he's experienced with. Finally, there's Fox, who dropped his blaster in the chaos of last round, but now dual wields 2 revolvers. Meanwhile, Link is a master of puzzles, so he's gonna focus on opening that large door, while Zelda focuses on protecting him from any attackers. Unfortunately, our very brave Captain Toad ran out of ammo and got caught by one of these creatures mid-reload. It ate the little mushroom guy alive, but he went out like a true hero. Once Link finished opening the door, the other players followed suit. Well, most of them, that is. Mario, still blasting his shotgun, made sure Luigi got through, and Bowser plowed through right afterwards, and then Samus. But when Fox turned back from holding the line, he was met by a zombified Captain Toad, who tackled him. Swarmed by a pack of zombies, he emptied his revolvers into the horde in a blaze of glory, saving 1 shot in the cylinder. Finally, there was King Dedede, who rushed back to pull Kirby through the door. When Link refused to move, the king was confused, until Link gestured towards Zelda. Dedede understood, and grabbed the princess along with Kirby, carrying them both to safety as Link made his final stand to hold down the door while the others escaped. He cut through countless zombies with the golden dagger that Zelda gifted him earlier, as the rest of the group made their escape, and heard one final revolver shot from where they came.
Smiling faces stalk the floor, flashing grins that promise gore. Cherish every guiding light, or be devoured in darkest night.
Only 7 of our unfortunate guests remain. Mario, Luigi, Samus, Kirby, King Dedede, Bowser, and Princess Zelda. They enter a strange basement filled with surprisingly pristine arcade machines and decrepit, creepy-looking old animatronics. Samus remembered the letter that Fox found earlier, which mentioned some sort of games in a basement. And sure enough, several arcade machines appeared to have been used very recently, with the monsters' shadowy residue on their buttons. When little Kirby approached one of them, he saw one of the smiling animatronics in the black screen's reflection. But before he could turn around to say hi, it had vanished. Something's fishy about this basement. There seems to be a room full of security monitors that could keep an eye on the maze-like layout. So Zelda and Luigi are tasked with watching them, while Samus and Mario lead the others through the maze, and hopefully to their survival. Zelda shouted orders to the fighters over an intercom system, warning them of sudden disappearances from the animatronics. She could hardly keep her eyes on them, and their quick movement certainly freaked out Luigi. The pair watched the cameras together, but in a moment of distraction, they noticed they weren't seeing any of the animatronics on camera. All of a sudden, Luigi shoved Zelda off of her seat and grappled with some sort of animatronic bear. It was strong, and the roar it let out was enough to turn Luigi pale as a ghost, and then it quickly tossed him into what looked like an empty animatronic suit. Zelda was stunned but stood her ground, warning the others that they needed to run while they still had time. And these words would be her last, as the animatronic bear and its new recruit made Zelda their next meal. Words made it clear to the others, particularly Samus, that whatever was controlling these monsters had a calculating, sadistic mind, not unlike the large-scale threats she's fought in her day. Samus and Bowser did a lot of heavy lifting so that Mario, Kirby, and King Dedede could escape. Reluctantly, she had to knock Mario unconscious to keep him from going back for Luigi, who she'd rightfully guessed was already dead. But the king couldn't leave his new friends behind so easily, so he pulled Samus out of the fray and into the exit zone. Finally, they had an opening to escape, but when King Dedede tripped, Bowser didn't look back for a second. It looked like the end for King Dedede, until Kirby bravely rushed back to pull the king to safety, saving him while the pink puffball succumbed to one last animatronic jump scare. As the others escaped into a small elevator.
Step too loud and monsters hear. Breath too sharp and hell draws near. From vicious claws to broken hearts, the house shall turn each scream to art.
The remaining four stumbled out of the elevator on the bottom floor, and it was pitch black. Thankfully, there was a lone camcorder with about 60% of its battery life left, with night vision. If they stuck together, they could use it to navigate their way through. The air was damp, heavy with rot and rust, and old medical equipment filled the rooms. They looked through the viewfinder to see that they were in an abandoned asylum of some sort. Mario clutched the shotgun he still had from the hunting lodge, while Samus held the camcorder, its night vision cutting through the darkness in a pale, ghostly green. Bowser, impatient as ever, yanked the camera from her hands and said, "A real king leads his army." Dedede's fury finally boiled over, still blaming Bowser for Kirby's death, and the two began to brawl in the dark, their roars echoing down the hall. It wasn't until Mario put himself between them that the fight stopped, and the realization hit Dedede. Mario had lost his closest friend too, but their shouting had already drawn attention, and the sound of shuffling feet came from a distance and grew louder. Then came laughter, high-pitched, distorted, and far too close. From every corner of the asylum, the entity's maniacs emerged, dozens of them, twitching and muttering. Samus hissed for silence and pulled everyone into a nearby ward. They ducked behind overturned gurneys and broken lockers, trying to stay still. Every creak of the floor made the maniacs pause. Every breath felt like it may give them away. The camcorder flickered, its battery nearly dead, and when the light sputtered out for good, the whispering stopped. They were surrounded. Through the darkness, Mario's hand brushed the cold metal of his shotgun, the same one from the hunting lodge. 3 shells left. He looked at the others, Bowser trembling with rage he couldn't use, Samus clutching the useless camera, and Dedede frozen in place. "Go," Mario whispered. Bowser looked at him in confusion. What was he doing? To which a smirking Mario responded,
"Salonga, Bowser!"
Before anyone could stop him, he broke from cover and charged into the hall. The shotgun roared once, twice, 3 times, firing into darkness to draw the maniacs away from his friends. Each flash lit the corridor, twisting faces, flailing limbs, and Mario standing his ground. The maniacs turned on him instantly, their shrieks filling the darkness. But his distraction was enough. Samus grabbed Bowser and Dedede and dragged them down a side corridor as Mario's echoing gunfire faded behind them. The last thing they saw was his silhouette swallowed by the darkness. The surviving trio crept onward in silence until they reached a rusted iron door, its surface carved with a phrase that chilled them to their core. The final trial.
The entity, your final foe. At least that's how they thought it'd go. Its power is great, yet my mind prevails. Behold at last, the threat unveiled.
Samus stepped back in shock. It was no wonder the invitation set her off from minute 1. The monster from earlier didn't just resemble Ridley. It was Ridley. It turns out the space pirate had no issue teaming up with a psychotic, house-haunting torture expert. The entity was once a normal boy, growing up in perfect luxury with his wealthy politician parents. Nobody truly knows what happened that fateful night. All they know is that the mother died, the boy was hauled off to an asylum, and the father left, never to be heard from in public again. Local gossips tell an unconfirmed story that the boy's father attacked his mother, managed to pin it on him, and got off scot-free. And the boy's desire for justice twisted into a desire for vengeance. If not on his father, then on the world that let him get away with his crime. Of course, Ridley didn't care about all that. He just knew of a certain bunch of powerful mascots whose powers would make a great sacrifice to the entity. In exchange, the space pirates, just as cutthroat, would thrive as well. Only by cooperation will they be able to escape Ridley's vigilant clutches. The exit is in view though. The only issue is the power is out, and the doors look durable enough that even a full-charged jet hammer wouldn't put much of a dent in it. Samus, DDD, and Bowser split up to repair several power generators so they can escape the open door, all while dodging Ridley and his ruthless attempts to hang their carcasses like Christmas ornaments. Samus's high-tech power suit charges the generators quickly, which draws the attention of Ridley, but King DDD isn't above throwing a couple rocks at the dragon to distract him.
You don't get cracking, I'm gonna have to give you all a whacking!
And for such a big dude, he can run pretty fast, so he'll keep Ridley entertained for a minute. As Bowser works on a generator of his own, using his surprising mechanical skills to repair it, Ridley and DDD come across him, and the pair split up to divide Ridley's focus. But Ridley saw through their plan and rushed to Samus, who seemed to be working on a generator of her own. But unbeknownst to Ridley, she was actually siphoning the power from some electrical wiring to charge up a massive plasma beam, distracting Ridley and enabling Bowser and DDD to work on more generators. But as they were about to finish repairing the final generator, the unthinkable happened. Samus's arm cannon jammed, allowing Ridley to gnaw at it like a chew toy. Just as King DDD was about to run back and help Samus, Bowser beat him to it, biting Ridley with such a fiery ferocity that he had to roar in pain, allowing Samus to be freed from his grasp. King DDD helping the injured bounty hunter out, he saluted Bowser and managed to at least save one friend today, leaving Ridley to roar in rage, and then in terror, for he realized that the entity was going to get more power whether or not Ridley fulfilled his end of the bargain. And so, of the 13 who entered, only 2 survived. Samus and King DDD fought not just for themselves, but for their friends. And even though they'd lost a lot, they gained assurance that they could protect their kingdom, planet, and even galaxy from whatever threats arose.